All right, we're here with my former high school baseball teammate, probably more importantly, Texas Rangers pitcher, Wes Benjamin. What's going on, man? How's
Great
it
day
feel
to
to
be a
be the
Saint.
yeah, great day to be a Saint. Attaboy. How's it feel to be the first guest on the pod?
I'm the first guest. I'm honored.
Yeah,
Oh my
man.
gosh, this is awesome. So, are you guys going to explain to me what daisy cutter is for me, or is that?
Yeah. I actually didn't know this, but it's an old time baseball term for like a hard hit ground ball. Takes the top of a daisy off.
Ah, nice. Okay, learn something new. I mean,
I never knew
I'm
that.
sure you expect baseball players to know that, but it's like, no, I've never learned that. Pretty
No, I
cool.
think also it's like one of the best beers out of Chicago is Daisy Cutter. So it's
Oh,
just
there you
good
go.
SEO strategy
You can
is
marry the two.
yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Awesome. Sorry I interrupted you. My fault.
No, dude, no worries. How's spring training going?
Good. It's going well. As soon as the games kind of pick up, everything kind of starts to move by fast. Um, we're entering probably the next week is the dreaded cut phase. So we start to see some garbage bags come out, and everyone gets a little anxious. But aside from that, we're finally starting to see other teams, which is good too, and excited to just kind of get out there and play ball again. So I'm excited to actually have a legitimate year, not like last year, and ready to get out there.
That's awesome, man. And I think the biggest thing too, obviously excited for 2021, new season. Obviously, fans hopefully will start coming back. Knock on wood. Biggest thing though, first is 2020. I want to talk about that crazy year, pandemic year, whole world going through it. But obviously, sports is a big part of kind of helping people, and just kind of get through it. I'm curious for you. Obviously, big year. First off, congrats, MLB debut 2020. That's pretty awesome, man.
But thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Biggest thing though, I was just curious, especially with no minor league kind of season happening, how were you able to kind of stay ready, develop, kind of mentally be prepared for that moment? As I'm sure, again, it's just a crazy year for everyone. I'm sure you included.
Yeah, well, I was back home in Chicago, or just outside of Chicago, and basically, if you don't have a warehouse or something to work out in, you're not going to be throwing outside. So there's a place I work out at called Force Elite Baseball, which is in West Chicago. It's just down the road from where Nick and I kind of grew up. And we basically, there's enough space in there to do live BPs and whatever else you can. We had guys like both from college, minor leagues, major leagues, all reaching out like, hey, we need to get our reps in. We had, actually we had two major league guys show up. We had Tim Anderson and I think Mike Talkman showed up at the time, and they were just like, hey, let's take some hacks. And we had a couple pitchers who needed to get innings out of us. And I probably threw about 60 to 80 innings just waiting through that downtime between, because they basically told us like, hey, 2 weeks max. That's it. Like 2 weeks, you'll be back out here in spring training. And the next thing you know, we're there in summer, like, okay, what do we do? So, but yeah, I was able to stay sharp, and I think that's played a key role in me being able to, be where I needed to be when they were trying to make a squad together, try to put a squad together. So I'm grateful for those guys over there to give me a place to throw.
That's awesome. How did Texas keep tabs on you? Basically catch up with you, how the development's going and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we would just try and send videos. I would set up this camera here basically and be like, hey, this is my bullpen today. 15 pitches. I'd send Rapsodo data, those numbers over to them, and they'd kind of monitor that and just, kind of take it slow and easy. I'd go on like a 5-day rotation, like I would be a normal starter or something. And every 5 days try and see a hitter and film it as best I could. We had like a GoPro and set up on like a cage. It's a really like janky setup, but like it worked out. So they must've liked enough what they saw, and they gave me the opportunity to come down.
Well, while the rest of the world was like bumming it, trying to figure out how to work from home, I'm glad to hear that baseball players also were struggling to figure out the work from home scenario.
getting Zoom set up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned getting the call up to the majors. I think like it's so different where like any other year it's like all the fans are there and it's probably this huge deal. Like how was it like going to a ballpark with like, you're in your major league debut, there's no fans? Like how was that? Walk us through, I guess, the whole thing.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think I got my call up was on August 11th. So I naturally couldn't sleep the next night, thinking, all right, this is it. Like, I'm going to go. Like, well, I didn't get the call till 2 hours before game time too. So I'm rushing to the field, freaking out. Like, I'm going in tonight. Like, here we go. And don't get in. So can't sleep the next night, thinking, all right, this is it. They called me up. All right, here we go. Didn't go in the next night. And then same process repeats till 5 days later on the 16th. We're in Colorado, and there's no crowd noise. Like, they didn't pipe in the MLB The Show crowd noise and stuff in the background.
Wow.
So you can hear it. You can hear a pin drop. Like I was, by the time I got out onto the mound, I could hear everyone else in the bullpen where I just was, like, what they're talking about their normal day. Like, it was strange. It felt like a spring training game, to be honest. But the experience was great. The biggest thing I was worried about was coming out of the bullpen the first time and tripping on my feet. Figuring out how to play that off, basically. But it worked out. Matt Kemp was my first hitter I saw, and couldn't feel the ball in my hands. And I mean, most guys are like, yeah, you can totally prepare for it, and you're going to be nervous, but I don't care who says, they're mentally prepared for it. As soon as you get out there, you start to tremble a little bit. But as soon as you make your first pitch, you realize it's just a game like any other game you've played. Like, it wouldn't matter who's in the box. You just have to execute your own pitches. So it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. And I was glad I got that under my belt for sure.
Yeah. There's no breakfast ball on the first,
no, there's
first pitch. You don't get a redo off the first pitch.
No,
so how did you prepare for, the batters you're going to face? So, like, you're making your first appearance. Are you really trusting your catcher, or are you studying for those 5 days where you're not sleeping about, like, all right, like, I might face the Rockies, or I might face, who, like, here's like their scouting report. Like, how does that work for your, first time also not knowing what's going to happen?
Yeah. So the catcher I had, Jeff Mathis, he's been around for a long time. We call him Cap because he's, captain of a lot of teams. He's been around, never caught me before, because, well, that would be too easy, right? So he, the first meeting on the mound is, hey, what do you throw? Like, it's like, okay, fastball, curveball, 3-cutter, 4 changeup. So he just kind of guessed around with what he thought I would like to throw. My changeups right now, probably I wouldn't say my worst pitch, but I don't throw it that often. And sure enough, he puts down changeup like 4 or 5 times in my debut. And I ended up getting 2 strikeouts out of it, which was crazy. So it worked out. But yeah, there's definitely that learning curve of having a new catcher. If you haven't had anyone throw to you, I've seen Jose Trevino pretty much my whole career, all the way up through the minors. So, like, we're on the same wavelength. But when you have a new catcher there, it's almost like you got to go back to the basics. But yeah, we use a lot of scouting reports and stuff. There's like these little iPads they give you in the bullpen, or before games as a starter, you can basically go through it with your catcher and develop a game plan, basically.
That's awesome.
I know Brian's really geared up to talk about pitching stats and pitching.
Yeah, there you go.
The one, I like, you always hear, like, we love watching baseball and looking at the stats and stuff. There's always like the spin rate, the WAR, like, all these like saber metrics. Do they walk you through those and be like, hey, your spin rate was X, Y, try this to get a higher spin rate? Or is it more like, hey, you're pitching good? How do they walk you through that?
So, for the longest time, I think a lot of organizations were very traditional. Like, it's, what does the eye tell you? I got really into the analytics side too, because I wanted to know, how can I get better and how can I be seen as good when, as baseball's starting to shift towards analytics. Like, I want to know, how can I better myself? So Rapsodo is really important with that. Basically spin metrics and stuff, see what your ball's doing. I developed a curveball with that. I developed my cutter. A lot of really good things came from it. And then I realized, okay, yeah, the first time I really noticed that the Rangers started to walk me through things like that was they would always tell me, oh, you don't throw 96, 97, your fastball won't play up in the zone. So for the longest time, I would only try and throw sinkers and throw them down and hope for ground balls. And the next thing you know, they're saying, hey, well, your spin axis is almost vertical, so you get a lot of ride on your ball. So you get vertical break, or whatever, as they call it. And I had a lot of it, and I didn't do anything different. I was like, okay, sure. Like, whatever you guys say. So they had me start throwing more 4 seams. And the next thing you know, all I throw are 4 seams now. And I try and keep them more up in the zone, because the idea is you want to miss above the barrel of the bat, because the way your eyes perceive the vertical break fastball basically is it's like an invisible basically. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I've been that way ever since.
How has I mean that's super interesting, and like I'm geeking out right now because I used to pitch, and I pitched back in high school days. And we never
you have to wake you up.
Yeah, we never had to talk about any of that stuff. No, but I'm interested. Like, how does the coaching change from college to like your first minor league team to like you're making the next step to like a major league organization talking to you about like, okay, your ball is going up vertically, like that's your strong suit. Like, how do you progress to there and like kind of sponge all that information and filter out what like is going to work for you?
So if I had known, like, let's say even in high school, if I had known all this information, I'd be a completely different pitcher. It took me until pro ball to even learn half this stuff. So, and as soon as you kind of think that like, you know everything, that's when you're in trouble. So a lot of guys tend to kind of die out because of that. They think, oh, I'm the best, or I throw so hard, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. But no, it's adapt or die now. I mean, it really is. And I think, they take baby steps with the really young guys, especially out of high school. They're like, the last thing I want to do is throw all this number garbage at you. Otherwise you're going to be, in your own head too much. But they kind of wait and see what guys really want to learn. Some people work better like that. And some people are like, they want nothing going on up there. They want like guys in the batter's box don't want anything in their head. They just do it. So I think certain people work differently. It took me till about AA to really start to understand how to go through a lineup and stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, it's are you good or not up until that point, really.
Yeah, I'm sure you're still like learning every day essentially and absorbing as much information as possible. I was just listening to a podcast talk about Garrett Cole, and like his time at the Astros was basically that. Like he's like, I don't even know any of this stuff. I've just been absorbing information to like self-sustain myself for as long as I possibly could. I'm like, that's incredible to hear from like, that level of like an ace talent.
Yeah,
he's still
he's
every
a dude,
day
man. He's like the guys people look at for metrics and stuff now, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, that's the first time I've heard that too. If it took him to get to the Astros to finally figure that out, I don't feel quite as bad. I thought I was behind the eight ball.
That's crazy. We'll get into some 2021 questions, but before we do, I wanted to talk to you about, or pick your brain about like what every baseball fan would like either be like super fascinated by or like kind of terrified of. September 2020, you've got bases loaded, 2 outs against the Angels. Mike Trout is at the plate. Mike Trout is at the plate. What's going through your head? You got him to ground out to third, but like, what is going through your head as Mike Trout walks up with the bases loaded?
Well, so first off, I don't look at him. I'm like, I know who it is. I just see him walk up to the plate. I'm like, I'm not associating this guy with Mike Trout right now. So
okay.
It became me against myself. In any bases loaded situation, it's execute. How can I execute my pitches? And the scouting report we had on him was, maybe like it's really comical when you look at his heat map. Because like we'll get heat maps and stuff, and like his entire strike zone's red. You're like, well, then where do I throw it? So you're looking at what can I do here to try and get an out? And I pitched to my strengths. I went just fastballs up and away and hoped that he beat it into the ground, and he actually did. Probably came off his bat at like 105 or something crazy, but we got out of it. And I tried to slow the game down as best as I could, and it worked out. And it worked out a couple times, and I'm just glad I didn't have to worry about much else after that.
I'm sure you're like coming off the mound too, like all cool, calm, and collected. But like, what were you thinking after you got the ground out?
Yeah.
Act like you've been there before.
There's luck involved. There's luck involved most of the time.
That rocks.
Was there anyone else you were around or face maybe where you just like kind of took a step back afterwards? Like, that's pretty wild. I'm playing against this guy, or this guy's on my squad.
Well, so yeah, I mean, in general on our own team, I'll have guys be like, hey, can you tell Joey Gallo I said what's up? And I'm like, why? Like he doesn't know who you are. And then I think about it and I go, wait, I'm on a team with him and these guys who are like super in the entire baseball world as like superstars. And then we have guys who are like, I can actually go up and talk to, Mike Minor. I could talk to Cole Hamels when he was with us. I could talk to all these random guys who people were like, oh yeah, it's cool. You know them. And to me, it's like, they're my teammates, which is kind of strange to think about. But yeah, that same game you're talking about with Mike Trout, I gave up Pujols's like 661st record-breaking home run or whatever to Willie Mays or something, and I threw a fastball down the middle to him. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he should probably put that out. But what I wanted to do afterwards is I wanted to sign a baseball and give it to him and put my Venmo number at it and be like, here, you're welcome, dude. Like I'm Willie Mays. I'm 661. You don't need to worry about my name. Here's my Venmo or something. You're welcome.
Yeah, return the favor, big guy.
Yeah.
That contract can pay for it. So let's talk about spring training. What was it? You're a 1 week in. What was it like toeing up the rubber game 1 of spring training?
It was fun. I'm grateful that Woody gave me the opportunity. I feel like I'm probably more unknown in the system a little bit. Obviously, going back and forth between relieving and starting, not being like a prospect, things like that. But the fact that they went out of their way to be like, hey, this guy's going to throw strikes, go ahead, go out there. I was pumped about. So excited to kind of show what I can do. And it went well. I'm excited to be back out there, and it was fun to kick off the season.
Talk about Woody for a second too, because I think obviously as an outsider looking in, obviously you guys are kind of a very young team right now, right? Trying to rebuild, get a new core kind of going right there in Texas. Why is he the guy for the job? Like, how is he as a skipper?
Oh, he's great. I mean, he's a complete player's coach. Like, he's been there. He's former player, been on championship teams. He gets it. A lot of times you'll have managers who are really big on the actual, I know what I'm talking about, but they've never lived it. And you just kind of have to take their word for it. With Woody, it's different. He sees things that a lot of other guys don't see. And he understands that, maybe even if it is a rebuilding year, that certain things need to happen. And I think that the way he goes about his business is just like how a player would. So guys match on that level with him as like, he's just one of the guys. And I think that really says volumes. It speaks volumes to who he is as a person. And I think how he'll perform as a manager. I know it's his last year on contract, but all the guys love him and they definitely want him back.
Kind of going off what Don Abedian just said about kind of a rebuild year, but for you, I think this, like you kind of mentioned, like you want to be out there the whole season, all of this, like, how do you separate like your success from like team success? If like the Rangers aren't performing well, but you're like dominating out there, like, hopefully starting pitcher, like, how are you like balancing that? I mean, maybe through the minors or into today, but we'd just love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. I mean, you get to a point where you kind of understand that it's a business. And if some things don't happen the way you always want them to, there's going to be moves. If guys have options, they're going to be sent up and down. It's just the way it is. They could be playing as well as they want. It's an unfortunate facet of the game, but it is what it is. A lot of Cubs fans saw that with Chris Bryant and things of that nature, with like starting his clock and whatever else. But, there is an underbelly to Major League Baseball. But at the same time, I think you have to everybody has to take little wins out of everything they can get. If your team's doing poorly, but you're doing great, obviously you don't want to be jumping up and down like, hey, like I did awesome. And you show up in the clubhouse, there's a terrible mood going on. So you kind of have to feel the room. But at the same time, if you're continuing to get better, to me personally, if I'm putting up zeros, that's all I care about. Obviously I want the team to win. Everybody wants the team to win. But if you're individually, as everybody goes through, if guys are getting hits and some guys aren't, they're all going to continue to better themselves no matter what. They're going to learn from their mistakes. They're going to build off of, great outings. It's just what needs to be all cohesive to have everybody start winning together as a team. And I think that's where we're starting to hit. And I think a lot of the younger guys are starting to figure that out too.
You don't want to be the guy coming in all drunk and happy, like, yeah, throwing zeros. Exactly, it's like a 3-game losing streak. Like, you're that guy.
We give up a walk-off or something, and one guy was like, yeah, I went 4 for 4 today. Like, this is great. Like, you see that in high school ball all the time. But no, everybody's got feel now, and they kind of understand that.
So, what are your kind of goals for the year personally and as a team? Like, what are you kind of expecting of yourself and as the team? I'd love to hear also, like, kind of to Brian's question, how does the team set you up for, this is what we'd love to see from you for this year? Or is it really game by game? Like, you're taking it one day at a time?
I think the more I get the opportunity to get out there, the more I'm hoping I can surprise them a little bit more. I would love, I mean, I think starting pitching is what I've done my whole career. I love starting pitching. At the end of the day, I have to do what I have to do in order to win games. So whether that be, come out in long relief, it's going to be a weird year because, not many pitchers have thrown that many innings. So there's probably going to be, 15, 16 starting pitchers this year for each team, just because the workload, if guys aren't going to be going straight to 200, 250 innings, otherwise there's going to be a lot of injuries. So they're planning for that. They have a lot of good ideas with a lot of, the younger guys and guys to build up innings. They might try and do some tandem piggyback type starts. But for the most part, it's who's hot at the right time and who's, showing they can perform, and essentially, you can be consistent with that. And the more you can show that you put up zeros out there, the better chance you'll have of, being in the game and being relied on in key situations.
It's going to be such a strange year. I'm really excited to see what teams do in terms of like openers, piggyback starters. Like depth is really going to be the most important thing this year, which has me very upset about the Cubs, but that's a topic for a different day. They don't have any pitchers. They have no pitchers. I guess, I mean, this is not a question I was going to ask you, but like, how do you separate your fandom as a baseball player versus like your team? So like, and like what other storylines around the league are you just like, as a baseball fan, excited about, outside of like, Rangers games? What are you just like, oh, this is an awesome part of the league that I can't wait to watch?
Yeah. I mean, well, you look at things like, obviously I grew up around Chicago. I was a Cubs fan growing up, as were you. And I mean, when I'm playing the Cubs, I don't like them at all. Like, I don't want anything to do with them. Like, it's a complete switch. But after the fact, I know a lot of guys on a ton of different teams now. It's all interconnected. They're your buddies. It's not, oh, they play for this team, so I don't like them. It's, oh, that dude's cool. I know that guy. Like, I forgot what movie that is. It's like, I don't want to say the full line because I don't know how this podcast is going to be, but
I know you. I mean, you can do whatever you want. We've got the explicit rating. You're allowed to
like,
do whatever you
cool,
want.
You're cool. No, like these guys, like you play a lot of guys throughout the minor leagues. You hope for the best, and then usually you want what's best for them because they're great dudes, and they go off and usually are traded or DFA'd or go to a different team. So you root for a lot of guys you end up, having a good time with and are cool with. And, I'm excited to see a lot of dudes out there that, have good seasons and shock some people.
Who are those dudes for you? Like, who's your like, the T-Mobile 5 from like back in the day, or like your MySpace 8? Like who are your guys?
I got a couple. A lot of the guys end up on the Rays. I'm good friends with Pete Fairbanks and some of those guys. Crazy Pete, we call him. But I'll try and find for the Cubs. I'm trying to think. Patrick Wisdom's a great dude. I'm hoping he makes the roster here with the Cubs. But yeah, I'd have to look at a long list. There's a lot of. It's kind of strange how interconnected everything is, because really you'll go down. I'm sure you've seen guys you played in travel ball, and you're just like, oh, I know that guy from somewhere. And then the next thing you know, oh yeah, that's right, we played baseball together. It's a crazy world that it's very small and tight knit now, but yeah, it's cool to see.
Who's the clubhouse favorite for the Rangers? Who's the boy who gets everyone laughing, get them going? You only have to have at least one of those guys.
Oh man, there's a couple. So we have a lot of free agents. There's like 74 guys in camp right now. Definitely one of the guys who always says something funny and makes everyone laugh is DeMarcus Evans. He's got the biggest smile, and like he'll say something that he thinks is smart, and everyone will be like, "What is this guy talking about?" And then they'll just start cracking up. He's the man. But there's a couple really good guys. Chris Davis is actually hilarious. We just got him in the trade this offseason. He's sneaky funny. Like you can tell he's a new guy, but like he's a pretty funny dude. Like he'll drop a couple of jokes here and there, and everyone will be cracking up. So we're still starting to learn everybody's whereabouts now, because we got a lot of new faces. But we got a great clubhouse. I'm excited to see how everything goes.
Chris Davis also hits bombs too, just bombs.
He does. I've seen them firsthand on the opposite side. We're on the wrong team.
Yeah, it's nice to have those guys in your own squad.
Now it'd be hitting bombs for you.
For sure.
What do you like? I know we kind of talked out a little bit before we started recording. You were golfing today. What are you doing in Arizona? Like, what are you and the boys up to? Like you said, today's an off day. You go golfing. Like, what does a typical off day look like?
We're not allowed to do much. We're not allowed to do a whole lot under COVID guidelines, but they did say you're allowed to golf and you're allowed to just be outdoors. So whatever we can do to kind of not sit on our butts and play video games for 24 hours a day, we're trying to do. But usually that ends up playing a big role, as we'll probably end up sooner or later on a couch playing video games together. But yeah, I'm living with a couple guys who are on the same team, and we're just kind of staying in our bubble as we're supposed to. And you just eat out, and you don't even know what day of the week it is half the time. You just go to the field, do your job, and come home.
What's the video game of choice?
Oh, right now, so Taylor Hearn and I are big into FIFA right now, FIFA 21. I know it's a little bit frustrating with scripting and stuff, but it is what it is, and we're trying our best. But yeah, we're excited to see the MLB show come out, the new one, and see what our ratings are and how low they are, so we can kind of mess around with each other.
Yeah, Brian and I have it pre-ordered, so we'll be making some Rangers appearances online.
Perfect.
For sure.
I love it.
If you're not starting in real life, we'll force you to start in the video game.
Hell yeah.
I'll be snagging the West.
I'll be snagging the West Bend overall card come out there and just dice people up.
Hey, there's always challenges for winning a game with a bronze
Bump my
card.
guy up, please.
Yeah, we'll get you. We got you. That rocks.
First card on the roster, West Bend.
Yeah,
first on my team.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect. I love it.
We'll go
Hopefully
through the
you pick a
marketplace
Ranger squad, and I come in the first pack or something. That'd be great.
That'd be cool. What's it like seeing yourself in a video game?
It's strange. I always thought that'd be the coolest thing ever. And they had me in last year's, I think, on like the AA roster or something. And I had a nasty curveball they had on there. So people would like use me in the minor leagues and stuff, because they'd be like, yeah, it's like he's like a cheat code with this curveball or something. I'm like, and now I have to live up to that. But it was very strange.
I gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, so they scan a lot of guys' faces, and the running joke with us would be we'd see like who's looks nothing like them, and mine was not close. But we had a couple of guys that it's just like they just took a big guess on who this person was. But that's usually what a lot of the minor league guys would do, is be like, all right, sweet, I'm in it this year. Let's see if it looks anything like me. And they just had they had a rough, quick guess on who mine was. I didn't look like me at all, but hopefully I can get scanned or something this year. That'd be fun.
How are the fans in Texas too? I mean, we were doing a little research. We did notice they were drinking 8th least amount of booze of all MLB fans, but I feel like it's still a great place to play. They're rowdy.
Oh yeah. Well, so, I mean, the only time I've been there seeing Texas fans, they're a little flatter than normal. But aside from that, I've heard it's, a lot of great atmosphere to be down there. And I'm excited because I'm sure they're going to have close to full capacity. I feel like by the time we get down there and hopefully the vaccination rates go up, I think they're going to try and open up as many people as they can. But they're extremely loyal fans. They've been through the ringer with the Rangers team the past couple of years, unfortunately. So that's when I mean, Cubs fans alike, they totally get it too. But I think I'm excited to see more down here. I know a lot of people haven't traveled as much because Texas is a warm weather state. So normally we get more Kansas City fans since we share a complex with them. But yeah, normally it's pretty good. And I'm just extremely happy to see live bodies in the stands, and, that extra level of adrenaline helps out a ton for sure.
This is the most important question I think I had. You played high school ball with Rogers. Could he have gone pro if he actually, focused on baseball?
No chance.
Well, were you saying that he wasn't? Wasn't concentrating on baseball, or?
Hey, I wasn't there, so I would love to hear the perspective.
The most interesting thing I think that a lot of kids at that age didn't realize was they could play collegiate baseball. Like there's a spot for any kid to play collegiate baseball, I think, in America. And people start to look at it and are like, nah, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to email that team that I think I could play for or something. And in reality, like they're looking for guys. So I think that if more people attempted to play collegiate baseball, and who knows, hit like a growth spurt, or all of a sudden their mechanics change because they're in front of a coach who knows what they're talking about, and they start throwing 90 miles an hour. The sky's the limit, and you continue to get better from there. So I would never tell Rogers that he couldn't make it. How about that? Is that a good political answer for you?
I love that. We'll just hope. We'll hope he has a kid. We'll hope he has a kid that can go pro.
I peaked sophomore year.
Everybody peaked sophomore year, man. It's all good.
3 home runs in one game, and I don't think I batted over 100 after that. I was
Your
trash.
Fault. That's all right. That's the glory day one you called back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let us know if you need to wrap it up. But I was going to ask you kind of to that point about the scouting process and just like picking a college and like what was draft night even like, because, when you think of the NBA, NFL, it's like this hugely marketed, TV commercials on every channel with like the face of the number 1 overall pick. But baseball is like so niche, it like that doesn't exist in baseball. So like draft night, are you sitting down with your parents on a couch, like waiting for a call? Do you already know who's going to take you? For colleges, are you touring 12? Like, how many calls did you get? Like, how did that work?
Yeah. So I got plenty of time, so don't worry about that too. But
right, cool.
It was difficult for me to want to listen, if that makes sense. Like I got kind of anxious about it. Like I didn't want to know, but I obviously want to know. You just want the day to go by faster. I was hurt at the time. So I had heard rumors the Rangers are going to take me. They had called my agent and said, "Hey, we're thinking about getting this kid." And I went for a run. I was like, I got to do something. I can't sit on the couch right now. So I'm about halfway through just jogging around my neighborhood block in Charlemagne in St. Charles. And
shout out that. Let's go.
There you go. Yeah. And and I get a call from my agent. He's like, "Hey, they're going to take you in the 3rd round." I'm freaking out. I'm sprinting home. I'm like full on, like, I got to go. I got to tell my family right now, everybody get in front of the computer. And the 3rd round comes, and then the 3rd round ends, and I don't get another call, and they didn't pick me. And I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. So 4th round comes and goes, and then I get a call again, and they're like, "Hey, Rangers are going to take you in the 5th round now." And I'm like, all right, like this is like boy who cried wolf type thing. Like, okay, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But I'm sitting downstairs with my family. My parents are around me, and we're on this like little monitor screen, my old computer in my basement that we have. And I got to live stream them. See, they like said my name because it was day 2 or whatever. And it was a pretty cool moment. I mean, I remember just, all the emotions out. Like the hard part of getting like seen is over. So I felt like I could finally, breathe a breath of fresh air, and celebrated by going to Dunkin' Donuts and got donuts with my now wife and family. And that was about it. And that's all I can really remember from that at that point in time. The rest was just kind of a rush.
That's great. I mean, also the other question for you too is the journey, right? So like you get drafted this past year, you make your debut. If you were to talk to anybody else trying to make it to the show, what would be your advice? Like talk about the journey and like I feel like the mental strength you have to just make it to this point.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing, especially for guys who are coming out of high school who sign, is as soon as you realize that no one's going to hold your hand, I think the better off you are. Guys who go to college, they kind of get a little bit more. They know how to work out. They know what to eat necessarily. They know how to go get rest and recover. A lot of high school kids are really young and don't necessarily understand that. There's not always, a person helping you along the way because it's a job, and other guys see that too. And they see you as a threat. So it's not always, hey, it's that rah team camaraderie you get in collegiate ball where everyone's pulling for each other. Sometimes there's, guys who are gunning for your job. So the way it is in that regard is, there's 2 sides to it. You can either make yourself better because of it, or some guys kind of go the opposite direction and they, kind of fizzle out. But as long as you have that motivation to desire to show up every day and do what you love, I think that's what the best part of it is. And those are the guys who end up, having really long careers. So I'm happy to say I still have that in me, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
When I think you had a especially unique scenario, you had Tommy John in college. So like, what was that all like? I know that's like a very vague question, but you know,
So I have
you're
to throw
working
out
your
there,
ass off.
No, so I have to throw out there that this point happens where there's you know, some high school dads like, I'm going to get my son Tommy John early so he can he throw harder and get a college scholarship, and that's idiotic. So please, no one go get Tommy John surgery if you don't have to, because that is not how it works. Usually guys end up seeing jumps in velocity and stuff because they're working out like crazy all the time, and they're eating more, and they're recovering and doing what they're supposed to do. So I having that happen to me felt kind of strange because, you know, it literally took the ball out of my hands. Everything was out of my control. So everything I'd done up to that point in college was all I had to base my merits off of. And luckily the Rangers thought I had done enough to take a chance on me on damaged goods, as they say. But it worked out pretty well. And going through those first 2 years of rehab there down here in Surprise, actually, made me learn a lot more about what guys have to go through in order to make it. I saw guys who were up and down constantly, guys who were so close, just AAA, you know, 5-year heroes who are just, they're so close. And then they had a little tweaked hip, or they, you know, broke their hamate bone and they're trying to swing again and like, they're just pushing so hard. To see that drive and desire of those guys is what really motivated me to continue to move forward. And I think, you know, I always have a soft spot for those guys who've gone through like rehabs, injuries and stuff, and are still trying to make it on their way. Cause I always try and help out whoever I can. Because I know how tough it is. That's as much of a mental grind as any, because you don't even know if you're going to come back, and let alone throw as hard as you can, or if not harder. You're just hoping that you can play catch again. So it's a mental grind one day at a time. And once you kind of get over each milestone, take things a little bit at a time, it gets a little bit better. But I always feel for those guys because it's a difficult route for sure.
That's freaking awesome, dude. I'm like geeking out right now. We're just talking about this. We're going to try and make a road trip or something down to Texas, and we'll be like a little rowdy out in the crowd. We'll come watch.
Absolutely.
We'll get some custom made. Yeah, we'll get some custom Benjamin jerseys. We'll get some Texas merch, and we'll be ready to roll.
So that's what's cool too, is they're online now. You can find them. You could probably find some knockoff brand, but I don't think I'm allowed to promote that.
No, I don't think the MLB licensed PA will allow you to do that.
So we would have guys who look and see how much their jersey's worth, and they'll like up the price on guys who getting more and more jersey sales. And like, I'd look at mine, and mine would be like more expensive than a guy who's had like 3 or 4 years with the Rangers. And I'm like, oh wow, it's pretty good. And then I realized it's like, oh, it's probably my entire family just bought it all at once. Like they like that's the only reason. Like, but it's kind of cool. So like, I did a lesson with a couple kids, and they had a shirt on that had a big T on it and had my name on the back. And I was like, what? This is insane. Like, I actually have my own shirt. Like, this is crazy. So I know, and they changed my number this year to 63 right now in spring. So I don't know what my number might be from here on out, but if I see guys with number 75 on it, I know they're OGs.
Well, I'm trying to get that Crawdads merch. That's like one of the greatest minor league baseball team names of all time.
Absolutely. Hickory Crawdads, baby.
The best.
Boys,
the Down East Woodies are pretty high up there too.
Yeah, Downey. Well, baseball just is so
great names.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of weird ass. It's awesome. I love it. I feel bad for what's happening with minor league baseball currently, but we saved that for a future guest appearance. We'll talk about the state of minor league baseball and what baseball is currently, what's going on. Yeah.
We're touching on jerseys real quick, Wes. I got to ask you, besides Texas, who has the best unis in baseball?
Oh man. And just in the MLB.
MLB, yeah.
Oh man. I mean, if you're like a classic connoisseur of baseball, I think pinstripes are tough to beat. So the Yankees are up there. I got to give them credit where credit's due. But so to be honest, I think the powdered blue look is pretty cool too. What the Rangers have going on Sundays, we'll wear those. I think those are probably the coolest new thing we got going on. We kind of have softball looking pants, but other than that, it looks really nice. Like I'm a big fan. So I think it's a lot of fun just to kind of see other guys. I think the biggest improvement of jerseys I've seen are the Padres. They used to be like this is like, looks like it's been rolling around in the dirt. Here's the brown and yellow stain on it. And now it actually looks legit. So I think that's my biggest improvement award, I guess, goes to them.
Well, they've got to capitalize on their $300 million man. You know, you can't have the world's worst jersey if you're going to have.
They locked him down. They put a ring on it, man. I'm proud of them for doing that. He's quite the player. I've played against him all throughout the minor leagues, so I've been, I've seen both sides, and I've definitely, he's put a couple balls on rooftops against me as well. So I know how it goes, but he's a great player to watch. Absolutely.
Hopefully you're the next $300 million player. We'll be hoping for that.
I'll take what I can get, man. hopefully that's down the road though.
Well, I mean, thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate this. Was super fun. We'll have to have you on again. We'll be rooting for you. Best of luck this year. I don't know if you want to, hopefully some Texas Rangers fans are listening. You want to give a shout out for the season, what they should be pumped about, like a little.
Yeah. I mean, well, thanks for having me. First of all, this was fun. Great to see you guys and meet some of you. And, yeah, I think the Rangers this year are actually going to be a surprise team. I know a lot of people wrote us off, but we're young, and I think there's a lot to be said about what's going to happen this year. We're going to be in contention, I think, for a lot of the year. So I'm excited to see what happens, and ready to see a lot of fans out there. We have this great new stadium. It's air conditioned. That's the best part. We show up to the field every day. It's 71 degrees. We're like, hell yeah, this is awesome. So excited to see a lot of guys show up out there. Hopefully you guys make your way down there, and I think we're going to shock some people this year.
Hell yeah, man. Well, we're pumped. We're fans. Best of luck this season, and we'll definitely we'll have to have you on again. This was super fun.
For sure. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Wes.
All right.
Of course, guys.